Page 3. Praise to Shakyamuni Buddha. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one going beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, flame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme science, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Thus free like you, the 3 worlds are not, incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to thusness I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality, to the Dharma that pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only perfect virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly, this is the teaching of the Buddha. Star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud, see conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 15. The Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on massive Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Formless also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25. Osashi Perki Jukshen Metok Chamri Raling Shi Nidegen Pati Sange Shingdu Mite Ulwa Yitrokunandak Jingla Chupasho Jetsun Lama Dampakenam Kichokukala Kense Chinjigne Jita Sampe Duchesinma Lazab Gechuki Japavatu So Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. Page 27.
Zanje Jananda Yejanama Janja Bada Dani Jazanje Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Tola Benje Zanje Dura Jo Sanje Chudan Soji Chan Chanja Bada Dani Jazanje Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Tola Benje Zanje Dura Jo Sanje Chudan Soji Chan Chanjo Bada Dani Jason Che Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Inje Zanje Dobara Sho Kange Duzi Nyesan Ve Dao Danje Bangwa Yin Dembe Shin Dense Kodan De La Ja De La Danje Nyen Jason De Juve La Chichi Sinze Kanje Tende Gwan Chana Pema Tize Jazol So De Zo Jen De Lendo Jo Bande Zeve La Marumba Jen Dagi Chuba Peme De Jo
So we'll do start with a motivation meditation.
다 가고 로한테 중생 걸었나 드림 하든데 로리기 걸어 양자지 진짜로냐 좀 교상고니 참 가고
So now rejoice, feeling that once again it's a very fortunate opportunity to be able to study about awareness and knowers. So I feel very joyful in that.
어야 다 나도 단단 낭박 산지베 아니 시제 유여러 유스네 유하고로 유 똑당 그런 바들아 유 똑수 먼저 유 똑것은 시버 봐 시버 유 현단들라 림바숨 대전숨 아 금전으로 맨다다 대전숨도 신고요레스라
So now we're looking at, from a Buddhist perspective, how one comes to realize an object, or when we say this, realize, Tokpa can mean to know. Basically, it means to know an object. So when we look at this, there's three reasons that are necessary to know an object.
다 당보디 가래라나 통원 유스라 통원 유스야 돼 아니 무슨 제목 통되게 봐
Okay.
강도 미시다 근데 무슨 게 통되게도 또 보바다 메도다 강바다 미단도 통원 유스고 밀라게지 죽으면도 김제 삼당면도 가독스서 그냥 용도 내다 이 시도야게 시제들라 통원 유스 통원 유
So we're on page 20 in this book. It says basically we're talking about the three divisions here of inferential prime cognizer.
말해 제와서 마셔요 이봐
Yeah.
말해 제자 통원원주 제자원주도 무슨 삶에게 원주체로 통원주
Di gyonsen sum di yewa sum chikpamara.
그런 유지선
Di kirang gyonsen sum sum. Ini nongyo tang. Okay.
중세고주 신도고주
Oh, okay.
저디 롱바신다로
Oh, no, okay, sorry. I made a mistake. Sorry, there's three reasonings that ways that one can come to know phenomena. So first is through direct knowing, direct perception. So this is through our own experience. Basically, you don't need it explained. It's fairly direct. One can directly come to know objects.
다딜라 디신이 디수신고 무슨 재미 신고 무슨 제목 신고로
So this is like called a direct prime cognition.
아니와디 니 중세고규스로 한거죠 중세고규스다 무슨 데 하마가 돼다 금전라 되는 시고가 들어와 금전라 되는 시고가 돼 다디 네 단다 제바 참말라들고 금전 되는 거죠 금전 되네 가르스나 로아 주 강배치로라 주지도 가서나 주디 깨고도 로아 주 야면나 모데 깨고도 야면나 배 매도 도와도 야면나 근데 금쟁이도 그다 배 가서 직시기도 밀레게지 되고 말에 야 무슨도 신도고요 말이나 금쟁 다데데도데도스 금쟁이도 그 배 직시도 해서 될어야다 중세 고규스로 중세 고규.
So then we have slightly hidden phenomena, right? So the first is direct known or directly realized phenomena, and then slightly hidden phenomena, which we understand through our own reasoning. So if we heard sound like of birds outside, we can infer that birds are there. We're not perceiving the birds directly, but through the sound, we can infer that the birds are there. Nobody has to explain it to us. It's relatively easy to understand, but it's still not a direct perception. So this is what's a slightly hidden phenomena.
And
this is what we talk about. An inferential prime cognizer realizes these types of phenomena. So this is what we're looking at today, and as we've said, you come to understand these objects of the inferential prime cognizer by reasoning, through reasoning.
Tadi be khasa ngobe topshu jirik ba se ora ngo top jirik pa tandang zo jewa cheme chini da kuzo ngoma shu zima yangja shu mo che ta yewa she ande ngo top jewa chagwe jewa ije jewa da jewa chemar yewa sum che ro yewa sum ge ngo top jewa de kisin khala khansam chi do sem bare ro sheza da.
Okay, so then we can understand that we've can infer things like di sewa nyama di khareso sewa nyama khareso
Kandis
di jebak di sewa nyama di chabu kogumdu sewa nyama
jewa chema
sewa nyama di
chini ngala shesa
kure okay
gyawangama de jewa cheme to she to go rele gyawangama ro rinkanne
la so yep. So we can infer things like reincarnation, like previous, past and future lives. This is the kind of thing we can understand through this inferential valid cognition. We can establish these things. And then when we look at these, what types of prime cognizers there are, then there's through the power of fact, through the power of renown, and through the power of belief, or through belief, sorry.
다당고디 ngodob jewa nanengzo kissing that jawangaj danso tiring tarba rongzo tarba shigor tarba yang jumzen dene ngodob jewa da ngodob shigri ba jumzen la dene tarba dubthugu yore rongzo tarba yoba di mission la keje thigu mare anzo ngusumda to thugu mare ba tanda tarba ngusumda thugu mare ine yang susu ge jumzen samdana o da tarba yo chosre samta di
So, today we'll look at things like liberation, how we can use this inference to establish things like liberation. We can't see it directly, but through reasoning we can infer that liberation exists, right, or is possible.
Tadi 당봉안서 딘데로 삼당나 야고 요래. 좋아. 딘데 삼당이나 딱 타르발라디 동해세베 세바들바. 동해단 체베 체바들바 봐. 동해단 동해기 자와 동해단 체베 체바들라 타르바서. 코올레 타르베 타와 타르바. 동해단 체베 체바들라 다 타르바스고 요러. 이제 데이터 간데스 용그래요. 좀된 간데 딱 간데스 지는 건들 용그래야 돼. 지워디 딱 당고 요러.
So, what is this liberation? Well, liberation is the freedom from suffering and the root of that suffering. So, if we can infer that this exists, then we need to ask, well, how does it come about? Like, what is it that brings about this liberation? So, these kind of questions can arise.
알아서 도 삼단 되고요. 알아서 제조 나라봐. 제조 미가지다. 하바대원서 다 누절에 있는 낭바데 사바라고 시차. 아니 미망오제 저랑 부디스 낭바 인베스기도 봐. 낭바 인람나? 그 컨제 다 산je로 저리 텐로. 하바대원서 타와다 아니도 이나 다 배디. 동해 상와 빵차로. 낭바 차차오다 남상 타버 톱사서 이거는 식이다. 대 논류 첨부래지. 계제대 배 논류 첨부래.
Right. So, like in our society in the West, especially Buddhism is quite new. And there's this kind of idea that everybody who's a Buddhist is automatically like a Buddha, right? Or anybody who's a monk and a nun has automatically attained liberation. and is free from all suffering and stuff like that. This kind of thinking is not the case. It's quite mistaken.
Dindero pena pesha nge pesha ora pesha na sebu charo pena university jilaya jubazamge and professor chagmarwa university na don lobjon chagorwa cheta nangbala de the university application table the chikpare ta khanda ta dina le ne university dilam khegore lobjon chebe chagmarwa da professor la da pe 주주 쉬우지 당제 저거라라 이제 전 주주 쭉직 중리 당보든데 많이 해버치지 리서치 시제니 다 법에서 차고 그러면 시제게 유니버시티나 알로케이션 때가다가 법에서 차고 말아 어디도 지구지 야래서 법에서한테 부다다 지버리러 다드네야 장 진짜 장 딜람 캐야되다 낭버 차와다 지고 딘데로 버직 섬는 당기나 아니야 왜요래서
So, like, to give an example, if you want to be a professor, it's not a matter of just going to the university and then you're a professor the day you turn up, right? So, like, being a Buddhist is like applying or maybe even getting accepted, enrolling. Let's say enrolling in the university, but you're from the point of enrollment to the point where you're considered a fully qualified professor or a scholar can take many years, 10, 12, 15 years. Things like that, and requires a lot of study and hard work and dedication and, writing theses and PhD theses and all of this kind of carry on before you actually get qualified as a professor. So it's like that. It's a gradual process.
제가 나랑서 낭바 제바다 낭바 제바 낭벨롭 좀 제바 마 제발라 교합에 첨부요. 베나 당일라 example symbol example로 쉐비나 먼저 당보 낭발 체베이나 둥에서야지 열다서 봐 먼저 둥에 열에서 봐 먼저 둥에 열에서 둥에디 아니 미신다서 말에 수수수수게 주제 망보질라 되네 레단 데브레 수수게 아니 둥에다 레 사무단다 만디고다 수수룽하게 저 만디고질 때네 둥에 용고로 둥에서야지 열에서 당고 둥에 요가 10억 거란다 아 둥에 요가 원래체와 다른 게 쇼지 편도 첨부로 와 당연히 봐 원래 둥에 가시에 동해디 엑셉 치마도 버시제 아니 란시자고 요라다 제가 낭바체나 란시지 아니 용어요 이나 낭바 인스년나 란시지 아니 요래 요 미제 요래 타와 요래 라마 게다 첨부된데 요래 라마 밍통부된데 란시지 아니 요래 제가 네야 망와 자자로 하잖아 뉴뉴다 뉴뉴뉴뉴래 가서나 그 동해디다 수수 엑셉 치고 요라 동해 요라다 동해들 동네 컨데 쳐오래 This samudaya yoga deep chepsan chambore samudara.
So, this is in the Buddhism. It's very important to kind of understand this. Like, to give an example, as well, all beings, all sentient beings have some type of suffering, right? And this suffering is something we all create with our body and mind. And, this is something that's the reality. Our reality is suffering. Some people, they may not want to accept the suffering, but in reality it's there. And as Buddhists, maybe we have a little bit less suffering because we understand it and we work with our minds, but we still definitely have. But the idea is that you get less and less suffering until at some point you can 100% remove the suffering. But we need to actually know how to do that.
디인도 베나단당저 다 낭베 롭존체 티처런저 곰게가 여러 비니 exercise 다 꾸론야 고지케 어느 세베 냠레 닝제 딘데 곰바이나 아니 스트레스 용어 요래 anxiety 용어 요래 depression 용어 요래 로 어디 디 타바 춘중지래 타바 춘중신경이라 타바 담나다 다 요래 타바 춘중지 어디 낭베 냠레 지니라 곰 so komja samlo lojong nyamlen che dezola ane stress ta anxiety depression yunga yorwa that stress the mena stress the me theba di tharo ro di tharba dabore tharba daboji ro tharba daboji re tharba chungjung ji re lamna de re
okay so three techniques like the breathing and mindfulness and these various practices that we have developing love and kindness, compassion, these types of things, we can definitely alleviate our suffering. We can reduce stress, we can reduce anxiety. So definitely we have less suffering, And you could say this is a sort of temporary liberation, somehow similar. So maybe you've got like a mini liberation, something like that. But yeah, there's still some work to be done.
That do sometimes that today in our that just some much time doing a maybe the child use is your
Sipere.
that be tama delay to doing it in a maybe the yon to service.
Oh yes, Sipere.
Yeah.
But it's important that we have this recognition or this trust that this final liberation, this complete liberation from all suffering is possible, right? That's definitely something we can achieve. So we need to have that kind of recognition.
That do sometimes doing a
So, and at the root of all of this suffering is this mind of self-grasping.
That did be danzi di seva you met to go sometime go. That dealer ribogo.
So now we need to think, well, if this self-grasping is the root of all suffering, is it possible to get free from that or clear that away? So then we need to use our intelligence or our reasoning to be able
that
to
dealer
do
ribogo na you can sang danzi chujin, serva.
Okay.
Danzi seva yodis, danzi di meva seva tarva yodis or danzi seva yodi. And Jujula, Tamedo we share up Nyambotom de Yove, she started good.
It's possible to free from So if we format this in like the debate format, which shows the reasoning, we can say this: the self-grasping, the grasping at the self of a person is the subject. It's possible to get free from that because it's possible to understand the wisdom realizing selflessness, which is the direct antidote to this.
Bena, me Tarik top chamboyona. Dilla Tsaverik detument was Tanrik the Tango Tangar Shuk
okay.
Tangar Peshuk Chum Menace 0 in the Yuna and Tsaverik the detument was the Dinashi is Kuni Damed way shared top chamboyona, Danzi detumar is better.
So, for example, we can say that the logic here is that if you have one, you cannot have the other. In the same way that if you have a very cold place, there's no chance for it to be hot at the same time as being cold, right? If it's cold, then it immediately eliminates all the heat. So if you have this mind, this wisdom realizing selflessness, then there's no possibility for self-grasping to arise. So that's the reasoning to establish the possibility of liberation. Right.
아니 가서 지 relationship 서로 다 배 춘춘춘춘래 대자 그 내가 연구를 내가 도 싸워디다 단지를 통되면서 디메버지 소토위나 아니 상마다 먼저 단데 배 싱제도 싱 루트 제잖아 아니 브랜치 상마 매우 차도보다 어디 지고래다 동행이 싸워디 제잖아 아니 동행 영화요 뭐라 어디 시고다.
So the point of this is if we understand this and we start to think about attaining this final liberation, then the affairs of this life seem quite small in comparison. You know, the small difficulties we have or the small happinesses we have, they're actually relatively quite meaningless, right? Like our problems with our relationships and so forth. Compared to actual final liberation, this is not really very significant, right? And it's in the same way if we see the root of all our difficulties and problems is the self-grasping, and we see that, then, and we understand that if we cut that root, then it will remove all our difficulties, problems, and suffering, just as if you cut the roots of a tree, then all the rest of the tree, the branches and so forth, will automatically die.
단다도와 제도와 new age 다 yoga tenye 다 sound healing 다 두두 탕마 아니 콜라 튜닝 치고 로마드
Right. So all of this new age yoga, new age kind of meditation, yoga, sound healing, all of these things. It's kind of like pruning the tree. It might give you some temporary something, but
튜닝 제나 망부 깨용다 양자
yeah, but then you're going to have to keep pruning because the problems are going to keep coming back. Right?
아유 되다
More sometimes.
다 이내 다 당지스니 방야라 레라요 마체다 다 다메도 베시라 간데 이미 시고 요와 당고와 데 투주 당고 요래 삼로 당고 요래 예 삼로 당바 당지 이마직 디고 마르 둔다직 로 타와 로네 로 뛰제 다
Yeah.
안도 챤네다 클레직 당지 용으로 줘야 마제 충으로 줘야 근데 중나다 도스 메제 데라 네 클레 도스 줘야면서 남사 그때 카드치야 돼 가고 여다로
So, however, removing the self-grasping is not easy. You know, it takes a very long time to develop this wisdom that realizes selflessness. You have to work at it for many, many years, slowly developing this wisdom, right, over a long period of time. So it's through this kind of like a lifetime task, many, many years of gradual, slight improvement. And in this time, you'll see gradual development or improvement in your mind and your happiness, but it's not a small task.
어디로 다 딩고도 비제바 디당한조 상로 망보 데 망보 다요 하나도 총어 나라 베 망보 다디 베 편도 첨부래 다디 상로 망보 당고요 제바 니버디 제바 당보디 뭐도 제바 세
So this is the first of these inferential prime cognizers, the one by the power of fact. So, you know, by the power of fact. So this is the kind of thing we're talking about here. So this takes a lot of thinking about, though, to actually understand it.
다 니버디 탁베 제바 다와 탁베 제바 세디 갈라서나 탁와 지된라 탁와 베나 디나라 갈라서나 니 베제나 갈라서나 또유나 예베 따니 르원진라 다와 데슈는 제바 니버다 비슬라다 다디다 걸어서나 르원진스라 다와 르원진스리다 고 다웨 밍 르원진라 아니 다와 시베 밍 주릉데스라 르원진라 다와 시 다디 주릉데 아니 또유나 예베시 똑베 유라 요레서 또유나 직된라 탁와레서 다디
Right. So then the next one is through this power of renown. Now, when we talk about renown, I mean, the literal translation would be worldly renown, but just, I mean, it's just being known, conventionally known or widely known, you could say. Now, the example here, Matt, this is probably quite a Tibetan example, right? Their term, they have this word, rabbit possessor, which is a synonym for the moon, and everybody knows that. And like, well, Tibetans know that. If you say Ribong Chen, rabbit possessor, literally translated, you mean moon. You mean Dawa, you mean moon. I don't know. In English, we have this idea of this man in the moon, so something similar like that, right? Like, but yeah, they have many synonyms for moon. So rabbit possessor is one of them.
어디라 다 다와시와 대중 또유나 예베시스 또유나 예베시 똑베 유라 예베 균zen지 콜밍데 죄롱 그래서와 다디 직된 탁베 참말아야 돼 똑똑 첨보래 그런도와 이왕도 딜라야 딜라데 목딜 컵스 주초고라 또유나 여라 이나 목딜라 또유나 예제노 야 참에 루베 켜요 말아 목딜라도 탈레스 라비나 목디 모더레 목디 카발람나 디 다디 주고 말아봐디 다 주고
okay.
직된 탁베 타메 다디 주고지 고거데 참에 직된 탁베 미수이나 디 모더레 라고 말아봐 디 텔레폰 레 라고 말아봐 디 카브리 라디 코 참에 튜남디 다디 타기도 하고 딱딱 도기도 어디리 이 누가 첨보르데
So this, however, when we look at these things like famous, there's a lot of these around, and they are valid, but they have to be concordant with what's conventionally accepted, right? So, I mean, we have this term mug and cup, similar sort of meaning. You know? You can because you can say it's a cup or you can say it's a mug. That's valid. People know when you say mug, you kind of mean this a cup as well, or a certain type of cup. So it's kind of valid to say something like that because it's accepted. But if you say, oh, this is a car, well, that's not conventionally accepted, right? People wouldn't agree with you. They'd say, no, that's not a car. A car is 4 wheels because that's what's conventionally accepted by this car. So it has to be conventionally accepted, like actually what this renown means, to mean conventionally accepted, to be a term meaning like a synonym for something or something like that. I'm trying to think of an English example.
Prime Minister yoro sinzi
Right.
sinzi dabudi ngazo New Zealand de mi manchala thana ana ko sinzi cha do do ko mi manchala de chigya mole khelen chigo yo mar mi mancha de ge da de sinzi welo we thom ji sinzi re labshana ani ta we de thomna mi mancha ge ngwelen chana ana ko sinzi cha do yo ro o dina shi ro jre da jigden thakbo sa din de samdan de go ta.
So, the example of a prime minister, and this is in a functioning democracy, right? There may be other examples that are not valid, but in a functioning democracy, somebody's like New Zealand, the prime minister is the prime minister because the majority of people accept that person as the prime minister, right? You might have one or two people who go, oh no, they're not the prime minister, for whatever reason they don't want to accept that. But the vast majority of people will accept that, there was an election and the process was followed, and therefore, whether you liked what they say or not, you still accept them as the prime minister, right? And this is why it works, is because the majority of people accept them as this prime minister. Therefore, they can fulfill that role.
Jami 가져오래, right? Jami. Jami 미망의 미디 예매 여머다. 원식 제와 건설 담시하나 될 미디 도고요라. 미망의 뉴바데 차지기다. 바와슬 요르스나 다 바디다 마니다 도졸 요르와. 이게다 건설 government 미카셰지기 아니 담용거로 수수 바디지기 소용거요라. 미마라 Jami where the logre, Jami where logre. Zuma Zumare, where logre, Prime Minister Quasare.
Yes.
Oh, where logre,
Gummy.
Oh, where Malogula, Prime Minister Quasarta, that's Mimala Shochigora.
Yeah.
That's really.
So, I mean, as I said, this is in a functioning democracy like New Zealand or India or these places. There's certain examples like China or, maybe Russia and other countries where a few people decide who the leader is going to be, right? It's decided by the rich, the powerful, whoever they might be. They might have the semblance of a vote, right? But it's really just for show. The voting's not real in some countries. So in this case, then we're not talking about, it's not valid in these sorts of places.
Oh, that's funny. One time when in Tibet, our country, the choice country leader, and India said tomorrow we have vote for this country leader, and today my father said, oh, this is lying. Or country leader already someone already choice. Father knows already. He said, yeah, or this already done, but tomorrow the people showing vote, just showing, and then after vote and they can announce, very funny. That young kale that Ming Chado Yoro, Ming the Chidina Tado Yoro, Takbe on Chado Yoro, that go.
So this is
that
by the power of renown, when you're familiar with the certain term. Then you can know it to mean like synonyms or different phrases that mean something, so you can come to understand it through this renown. I'm trying to think of an English example.
Oh yeah, that ne tanda nganzu tangi sheyen ba sheja sum tokzu sheyen ba sheja tangbo de ngonju ngonsum de shen chikde gyumzen la dene shingare eswa gyumzen samdana ta sumba de ta gyumzen yo mare gyumzen ruptwa yo mare pena nganzu so birthday or birthday la jumzin ta ya mare amena amala kala yiji chere yamena tingsa na mengang ge certificate yoro di yiji che kira mengang certificate yiji chere
December
di geja sumba de to
December
mare de la ya ta yiji jeba go go yoro yiji jeba
Oh, I figured out one is like in English we'll say something like the big blue, meaning the ocean. That would be an example, right, of renown. People generally know that. Anyway, moving on. The third one, through the power of belief. Now, this is something like, for example, we all celebrate our birthday, right? But we can't remember the day we were born. We don't know what day. We don't have that memory. We basically put our trust, our belief in like a birth certificate or what our mother tells us or, what the nurse at the hospital said or something like that. So this would be an example of the third type, through belief. Inferential prime cognizes established through belief.
먼저 데이터 내 기지시 안론 트랜슬레이터 체 견한스 계제 년저거든 무슨도 하고 그러와 디 시제직으로 와다 다디네야 상무단디 내 기승마마 advertising 체레 딜레데네 나데 진데데 용어레 균젠틱 하고 그다 먼저 데 균젠데 나와라 다디네 먼저 단단님도 데디 통매 규진으로 가르스나 저 망보질라 먼저 대화지 중요하다 와 먼저 대화지면은 단다 내 기지시에데 전환들 대화스게 전에 전환들 우주르시게 합제 단데 나에서 기지럽시 인가 연구요를 말한다 아라 계산 룸면다레 로가 페네레 전환들 가시 뉴질랜드 가시 이탈리아 가시 오스트리아 가시 turkisre da damende yorwa lumba damende yorwa chena 와 france da 근데 damende lumba damende yude ade saje chigla ngzo zamya de gyujin khandeji chungre slabdi 다 겨와 khandeji lan chungre tuzu khandeji chungre yu khandeji lan chungre tuzu khandeji gi chungre gyujin khandeji chungre saade 다 먼저 산je 무시 신마 산je 무시 신야 마다 다 준비 신도 산je 신고다 나도 산지에게 나들 이지시 알면서 되는 아주 김쟁고야 맞다. somebody라.
So, for example, when we the fact that we're all here together. So there's the direct thing of us experiencing now, whereas Gish is teaching, I'm translating, and you guys are listening to this. So that's kind of we can be here directly experiencing that. However, we can also think of the reason why we're here, and the surface reasons, like for each individual person, you might think, somebody told me about the place, or I found it on the internet, or I saw an ad, a flyer or something like that, and then I came up here. But looking a little deeper into it, that's obvious, reasonably obvious reasoning. But looking deeper into it, in order for us to come together in this way, we must have had connections from previous lives. The fact that Gish is from Tibet, then everybody here, some are from New Zealand, some are from Austria, France, and so forth, various other countries. And the fact that we're all here now in this place together, doing this thing together, comes about through a vast number of causes and conditions that coming together, the causes we've created in our previous lives and so forth. And in fact, it's so subtle that only a Buddha can actually say what all those causes and conditions coming together were. Even our hearts can't perceive that. So this is to know all of these causes. We can infer that they exist, but to know them all directly, or to know what they all are, only a Buddha can understand that.
하디네 먼저 짐바당으로 짐바당 먼저 방고로 지래 짐바당 고문가 대회 이나래 한 칼라스 대회 이나래 둘로스 대회 이나래 짐바당으로 다 짐바당한테 대부 롱조 연구를 해서 대부 롱조 연구를 해서 다디 롱조 가도 연구래 롱조 컨데지 연구를 해야 돼야 산제 미시지 먼저 수직 신 말다 로 어디 다 딜러 신도 꼭 주소 다 시디 신도 꼭 주.
So with this third one, this belief, and we can say that from generosity comes the result of wealth. The result of wealth comes from generosity. So we have to put that on faith and belief, right? Because we can't see directly, like if you give somebody $5, you can't see what the exact result of that is going to be, right? Like only a Buddha could understand what the exact result of that action is going to be.
어다 체단다 좀 된데 진보당원의 롱조 연구를 해서 다 나지 마송 말아. 당도 따도 이지 제바 따고 온데 좀 된데 이제 다 산제 저는 진보당나 아니 롱조 연구를 해서 와. 제바. 다 된데 좀 된데 나디 아니 밀루버레스다고. 밀루하고라.
Yeah.
밀루버레스. 김전 가래서는 아니 제바숨이 타고 나래스다. 김전 길로 제주 숨 탄거 선거 요래스 따들이다.
Okay, 3. So when we say from generosity comes wealth, and we can accept that. We can accept that because it was said by the Buddha, and like therefore we can have our trust or belief in that because the Buddha's speeches are mistaken. So it's said by him. But in order to be accepted, then it should have 3 aspects to it. For this reasoning to be accepted, it should have 3 aspects.
다디 김전 나 간저게 안에 진보단 롱주 용그레사디 다다와 초바서 발합신 여러 좀니데지 다 진보단 롱주 용그레사디 다다 시에내라고 여러 디더게요 말에 다딜라 나딜라 제버숨이 타고 그래서 제버숨 가르스나다 참마숨 상고 참마 김제숨 체주숨 다 체주숨 하나 야거다 다 당보다 가래라나 통원군주라 무슨 체면 내어매 왔으라 무슨 체마가 내어매 왔고 그랬다.
No sincere.
무슨 체면 내어매. 메뉴.
Direct valid cognition. So when we from the first of all when we talk about it, like we can accept okay, from generosity comes wealth. We will accept that, but we can't see that directly. Right? So this brings us to the first of these 3 aspects, is that in order for it to be valid, to put our trust in it or to believe in it, it has to have been perceived by an unmistaken, direct, valid cognition.
제주 직치 너봐 지가래서나 다 진보당에게 제저로 진보당에 제 고문가이나 등어서 무슨 통그러 봐. 디싱그러 방어서 디싱그러.
So and then there's the actual aspect, right? So in this case, it would be the substance of the generosity, like the money that was given or whatever, and that's something we can perceive directly, right?
아드네 중세 고주되면 잘라라. 아니 제바 체면 넣으면 왔어. 이번 제바 체면 넣으면 중세 고주되면 잘.
Okay.
제바 체면 넣으면 왔어.
So it doesn't harm the hidden phenomena, which basically means it's valid for. It doesn't harm a inferential valid cognition.
아디 베나 진보당을에 롱조 용어디 유다나 데부 용어로와 데부 용어야 되다 디싱겨로 데부와. 데부디 갈라되네 용어를 롱조 총화디 가르스는 나라 중아마 진보당을네 총화디 대성아주 좀쟁이 싱겨로 거와.
So as we know, all results come from a cause. So therefore we can infer that, okay, the wealth that I have now comes from generosity in my previous life. So that's a valid inference, right? We can validly infer that. It's not illogical, basically. It doesn't harm this valid inferential cognition.
다 숨바들이다. 란징아지 거면 왔어야 돼. 배나 진보당을에 롱조 용그레에서 좀 된데 숨바들이다. 개와요 말했어. 식디 개와요 말했어. 진보당나 롱조 용그레스로. 개와요 말했어. 식디로. 란징이제 개와 가래서나 그나게 네 밀라 펜도잖아. 저랑라 동해 용그레 라위나 개와로 성으로. 밀라 펜토 인지 겁나 밀라 펜도잖아. 저랑라 동해 용그레 라나티 용구 말아. 밀라 펜도 개와잖아. 개와 용그로. 펜도잖아. 디지 용그레서 되다. 맹개와 차송하잖아. 개와디 가서나 밀라 펜토나 동해 용그레서 돼. 란지 개송하다.
So, the third one is it's not in opposition, right? Yeah, doesn't harm inferential valid cognition. Now, this word harm is the direct translation, but it doesn't invalidate, would be more like it doesn't invalidate doesn't invalidate a logical reasoning, basically, is the meaning. And then the third one, it's not opposite, right? Like gawa means in opposition or opposite. So what would be if you said like if you were to say something like, or Buddha would have said something like, oh, if you benefit others, that will bring suffering. You can see that that's in opposition, right? Like it's opposing. If you say benefiting others will bring happiness, that's not in opposition. But saying things like, oh, harming others brings happiness or benefiting others brings suffering, that's in opposition. Gawa is like opposite. So that's the third one. It doesn't harm. It's not in opposition or.
Jimbatane longjo yongore said Tata Redorako. Jimbatane Chona Pango Chagrelana, Gavacha.
Right. Yeah, so what's meaning by this in opposition? If you say, oh, well, if you practice generosity, you'll receive wealth. That's not an opposition. If you say you practice generosity, then you'll be really poor in the future. Well, that's obviously an opposition, right? So you can say that it's not an opposition, or it doesn't harm non-opposition.
The Jumde Lucus to a Jeremana. Me Banguji Langa Bangu shows to Jumde Sonyon Pegora shall be paid to them. Banguding Jumde la Tuatin, Tom Jumde Danga, Banguch had a caress, Bangu George had a caress, Jumde. Joran Jimbo Madan, Joanga Madan, Sedilla, Joran Jimbo Madan in Zan, Joran Banguch Harris, Senache. You'll Senache, Jimbo Madan in Zan, Joran Banguch Harris, or in the Langa Dora.
Yeah, so there's in history the life story of the Buddha. There was a beggar, a very poor beggar, who came in contact with the Buddha and asked him, well, why am I a beggar? Like, what happened? He said, well, it's because of you didn't practice generosity in your previous lives, because of miserliness in previous lives. That's why you're a beggar now. That's why you're very poor now.
The Bangudi Galas, Tanga Banguring, I'll Jimbata mess, cousin. Jimbata, yours,
The beggar said, well, now I'm in trouble because now I'm a beggar and I can't practice generosity. So what do I do? And the Buddha said, no, you can still practice generosity. So it's like you can smile or laugh with other people, right? And that can be your generosity. Yeah, so you can't give like a lot of stuff, but you can laugh and joke around and smile at people and these types of things. Yeah, so it's quite a nice story. So if you think about it, it's good. It's good to think about.
The reality lab sometime Mikashi Kaleshu Jamne Kaduina Pesha Madame Tigrua Jawangama Jimba Madame.
So you can see some people just really struggle to make money, like not successful. It's very difficult, and this is because of lack of generosity in their previous lives.
Yeah, Mikashi Kale Majana Pesha Pevu Yondu Pesha de and other people work very little, get money very easily, and the money that they do have seems to last a long time. So these
two, this combination of getting the money and it lasting a long time, is a combination of practicing generosity and ethics.
Oh, that is Jumden that Jeju sum de Tangor, Jesum Tawelung said, Jawasum Tawelung, Jumden de Jingadera, Jumden de Jingadi, Jimbadan Longe Yongre said, Jeju sum Tangores.
So it has to fulfill these three aspects that we talked about. So, and the speech of the Buddha does, saying things like, well, from generosity comes wealth, fulfills these three aspects.
The Landegam Tamoto, and Jumden de Jingala Yichi This is Shinto Marwa, Sanjay Galadin, Sanjay Galadin, Maranzo but the birthday la mina shi misumba de sanjere no sanjeli ije yorwa so amage da kira jeze de so amala ije yorwa so mo denan shire da kanda.
So we should have trust in what Buddha said, in the Buddha's words. We should feel that they're valid and they're trustworthy. Just as if, like when we want to know our birthday, we trust our mother, just to tell us when our birthday is. We kind of have trust in our mother to know that, and B, tell us the truth about it. In the same way, we can trust the Buddha's words.
타야 지난주 ngoma Tibetan amat kejitina ning jabatun dela gartara ama khadikeasa chana khan dangrwa dudike.
So Tibet previously they weren't so serious about like specific birthdays. So when you ask, like some people would ask, especially when they went to India, they had to find their birthday, so they'd ask their mum, when was I born, and would go, oh well, it was snowing when you were born, so then when it was snowing.
And then say you are born Friday, Sabasan like you. Sabasan Kadiyore, Sabasan.
Oh, some people would say, oh, you were born on Friday, and I was like, well, which Friday? There's quite a lot of Fridays to choose from. Because sometimes that name people like Friday, that would literally be their name. The Pasang. So Pasang is a common name. It means Friday because you were born on that day. So that's how I know you were born on that day, because I called you after this song. I guess it makes sense.
In Tibet, the laws have Pasang, Pemba, Nima, moon on sun on Friday and Thursday and Wednesday.
Yeah.
Lots people have this.
It's very common. It'd be very strange. It sounds weird, I know, because for us it's like.
And sometimes they have 3, 4 sun, sons in Nima. We say, and big sun, small sun, medium sun, taller sun, and chubby sun, black sun, red sun.
Yeah, Nima, the Tibetan name Nima, it means sun. So this is a very common name.
Yeah, Nima. Nima is sun. Didn't they chop out? Oh, didn't they? That chops out. That Oh, did that Sheja Javasema? That's some of the Jesuits. That is how was it?
Yeah. So is that clear about anything you need to know about this inferential ballad or this inferential prime cognizer?
That the Tandang the Javagi get a shade on the Tarva the Yudame Gumzi Samdani, pay away or it.
If we can look at it too. Look at these reasonings to establish liberation, right? That's very valuable to do that if we can really understand that.
그래서는 나랑도 단다 럽존 시야다 깔레게고 저런 진짜로 용 깔레게고 열어. 어디라다 되부지요 하고다. 되부지요 하고다.
Because you have to make effort to come here and study and do all these things. So you want to know why you're doing it. What's the result? What's the final result of this going to be?
되부지 연한다 다 야고로 받아. 되부 가려 열어서는 안에 가져 내당 가져 시에바 하고 잠기 수수 동해디 총으로 거였다 한다.
So the more you can understand these results coming and have confidence in them, then the more you're inspired and the less difficult things will be. And then, of course, the more you learn and understand, then the less and less difficulties you'll have. It becomes easier and easier.
That several years 매제 live 나로 나와. 당어도 그 텐네잘 에 걸레도 말아서 텐네잘 내주 춘주질라 이 콜로 그 갑진으로 자 마신 버시지 봐. 갈레텐 가지 데 가는 봐. I located to do go past those door.
Yeah,
and it is relaxed days. All
right, and we can see this when we're younger, and especially in sort of teenage years. Then we have a lot of difficulties, right? Because we don't really have a clear understanding of things, how things work, and how to function in this world in a skillful way, right? So we kind of end up creating more dramas and things like that. Whereas as you get older, you get a little bit more relaxed, then things become less intense because you have a clearer way of knowing how to do things. So we can see how knowing, having clear knowledge, can alleviate a lot of our difficulties. So when a Buddha knows everything about everything, then there's no chance for any suffering, right? So we'll stop here, but we'll go over these questions. So first question is, what is not a product? Chepa mayinba karere. So anything permanent is not.
Not impermanent. Permanent.
Permanent. Anything permanent. Yeah, any permanent thing. So kashi. So uncompounded space, emptiness, is cessation, is truth. Gogden, the truth of true cessation. Object of knowledge. Object of knowledge, established base, phenomena, like itself, not all phenomena, but phenomena itself is considered permanent, right? So then the 직진의 컨셉 takpa gyunsen karere.
그래서나 콜라 예와 베나 시자라고 하죠. 시자라죠. 시자 takwa래 있어요. 근데 그래서나 콜라 takwa다 미다고 인게 차이래가. 그 난세라 takwa다 미다고 인가이나 그 takwa 인고.
Okay. Now the reason things like phenomena and established bases are considered permanent is because they have both impermanent and permanent aspects to it, right? And if something is considered to have impermanent and permanent like subdivisions, then it's considered permanent, like permanent predominant, because you have to choose one, right? So it's considered the permanent predominant. Yeah. So like this, like object of knowledge of phenomena has impermanent and permanent things that are objects of knowledge or that are phenomena. So therefore it's considered permanent. Also Buddha is considered permanent for this reason.
Buddha takwa yongger midawo niga yora. Sanje inge midawo inge sanje gu subu dan sheba dan de xia jiao ra. Takwa inge sanje ju gok nian dan sanje ju dongba ni de xia jiao ra.
Okay. So, for example, the body of the Buddha, like this manifestation, the emanation body and so forth, can be considered impermanent. Whereas the truth of cessation and the emptiness of the Buddha is considered permanent. So therefore, Buddha is considered permanent.
Right, that is not it.
Well, then there's the thing here where it says, can you please either stick to one translation of either valid or prime? Yeah, but you have to know that they mean the same thing. It's important because this is the only text that I've come across that uses this prime cognizer rather than valid cognizer. So you need to understand, because later you're going to valid cognizer is going to come up a lot in other teachings. So you have to know that they mean the same thing. This is kind of a unique translation. Yeah, konzo di prime di sema di kegyo ni yure di kola chekjinan chitangi shemba. Yeah, so I'll try and be more consistent, but if I do slip because I'm used to saying valid cognition, just know that it means the same. So please tell us the 4 aspects of correct sign. Is that sign? Is this your writing, Bingu? Signs? Yeah. Okay. Correct sign. So kasang nansa di tagyang tak kegyoshi yore. Kasang nansa di tagyang tak keshi di shi karere. Yeah. Was it like yeah. Subject. The Sochi Church and the Nipa? fin to establish, yeah.
ane ta
Sign, yeah.
ane pe
An example. Soji church. I think
subject karsa
yeah, Soji. I think I said it was like I can't remember the exact word I used last time, but it was the focal subject. Is that what it? Yeah, I think something like that. That's the meaning, but I can't remember the exact word. But it's the focal subject or the subject to be, worked on, like the focal subject. But I mean, I may not be the exact word I used last time. Then the second one is the phenomena to be established, or the dharma to be established. That's the second one. So phenomena and dharma are the same word in Tibetan. And then the third one is the sign, and the fourth one is the example. Do you need those again?
pena chashana pechashana nge peshaura
Yeah. So to give you an example.
pechashana da di chu jin re da chu jin na chu jin ane midawa yinde sa de ane duje chu ane chewa yimbe chere sa de gyumde re ane pena booksins tepsins lamna perwa de odere
So, to give an example, so if we say sound is the subject, so that's the first one. The second one, it's impermanent because, or what, like literally would be, why is it impermanent? And then because it's a product, so that's the third one. Because it's a product is the sign, and then an example would be a book.
근데 가서는 북디 제바이나 미다와 연구했어. 제가 제바이나 미다와 연구에나 다 다디 아니 미다와 연구했어. 김대 가서는 제바리도 와서 어디다.
Right. Because it's the reason book is used an example is because book is a product and therefore it's impermanent. So therefore, through the same reasoning, if sound is also a product, therefore it must be impermanent. Because book is a product and therefore impermanent. Because of being a product.
But this is nganazu samlota yorewa. 그래서나 겨왕아마 요레스와 겨왕아마 요레스 삼는나. 김제 가래라나 네 겨왕아 땅 아데 주시녀와. 네 겨왕아마 요레스. 겨왕아마 김제 가서나 네 겨왕아메게 아니 릭바요레스와. 겨왕아메 릭바요나 나 겨왕아마 요레스와. 이수 삼단에도 하고.
Rigpasan and Trempa. No, okay. Okay. So, when we think about us having previous lives, so kiwanama shigire, rigpayure. Oh, okay. Okay.
Ngarang kiwangama yores. Gyumzen karelana, nge kiwangama sheba yores, sheba. Nge kiwangama sheba yuna, nge kiwangama yores, right?
Oh, okay. So when we think about it, inferring it through previous lives, through this kind of logic, we can say, well, I have previous lives. Why do I have previous lives? Because I know of Kiwanyama Rupuyure. I have knowledge of previous lives. So therefore, I can infer that I had previous lives.
근데 이때도 점로 뭐다요라 좀제 수수 삼다요라. 수수 삼다요. 배나로 봐다 어디래. 다 된데 삼로 뭐다요. 배나 배 리디간라야 메요레스로 페리간 페 도와도 왔어. 도와요나 메요고레스. 배나 말한 그 탑나라 도와요나 메요가 통구도 왔으니로. 배 말한 그 탑나라 메단디 도와요장 고 메도 왔으나지. Right.
So, we need to think about this. Well, we think about this as individuals a lot. We have this reasoning a lot as individuals. For example, if we see smoke coming from over the hill there, then we can say, oh, well, something's on fire, right? Because through the sign of smoke, we can then infer that there's some sort of fire to produce that smoke. Like, it doesn't come from... is a sign that there's fire. I mean, we say that where there's smoke, there must be fire, right? That's an English sort of phrase. So we use that all the time when we see smoke. We go, okay, well, there must be a fire over there.
다디 이 수수 족보라 삼다 하고 다 족보 콘도사시야 그거 콘도사도 그 계좌 책도자라고도 거의 뭐 땅아 So you know,
also with our friends and our relationships, we can say, oh, this person must be angry. Why? Because they're saying certain things or they're behaving in a certain way. So, okay, I better be careful because otherwise I'm going to get a bit of a blast. No, that's it. Any other questions? Online people? Anything?
Okay, we stop here then.
Discussion group.
디 제바게 진이 당고도 제바 타워줍지 기릭바 타워줍다 다음에도 왜 셰랍지 단지 세바도 조단도 데제 디스커션 채널 빼야고요 레스타 아니 제바숨디 타고 간데 이메 제바숨디 타고디 간데 이메 제바숨디 가리 이메
All right. So in the discussion, you could go over basically what we talked about, like how is this, you know, how do we establish this reasoning for this different types of valid cognition, like how does the valid cognition useful for getting rid of for establishing things like liberation and so forth. Also, you know, what are these three aspects to being something that's suitable to be valid belief for inferential valid cognition? Remember we talked about that. So discuss those three aspects as well. And Gonda di Shempati. So di Kigyusum tang di tapa tang di sopa.
Tarba duji rigba di jumzin. Damedo we share yuna danzi se.
Okay, so when we're establishing liberation, we can say, okay, liberation is possible because self-grasping is the obstacle to liberation. If we develop the wisdom removing that and as an antidote to that, then we can counteract that and therefore we'll attain liberation. So therefore liberation is possible. And these four aspects of this correct sign as well that we just went over.
Oh yeah, that is so.
Okay, so we'll stop here.
Ye be ye yong ye me do da le ra lin shi ni le gen pa di sang ge xing du mi te u a gi zhou ku nam dak xing la qiu pa xiu zhe cun la me ku zhe rab ten qing nam ka chun le qiu qiu ge fa dang lo sang ten pe zhou me sa sum gi zhou wen mun sa tak tu ne gyu jik Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kamniryatayami. Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma practice flourish. May the omens of obstacles be pacified, and all the conducive circumstances be complete. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Saviour of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjana's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. By relying on the 2 accumulations of myself and others in the 3 times, may the teachings of the conqueror Losang Dragpa blaze for a long time.